I am in the STEM space. I head up a foundation that's dedicated to bringing STEM education to underprivileged children. I also have some businesses,
I am
in
in the STEM.
sorry. Okay, so I do. Yeah, I head up a foundation that does STEM education outreach to underprivileged children. I also dabble in tech as well as manufacturing. So yeah, I'm basically a Jill of all trades here in the Philippines. So that's me.
Miss,
I love
Miss
scuba diving.
Aquino, Miss
Yes.
Aquino, tell them what else you own, what you're part owner of over there.
Okay, I'm part owner of a craft beer company called the Brewery also. So yeah, I believe in being very holistic. So STEM education is really for my heart because I love kids also, and I believe in education. My head is in the tech space and in the bringing tech to everyone here, and the fun side of me is in the craft beer space. Okay, so this is me. That's my picture, and I love scuba diving because, well, diving is really something that you do here. Snorkeling, swimming, we are an archipelago. All right. So who's ready to learn some Filipino language and culture and a little bit about my country? Who's ready to learn? Okay, great. Great to hear that. Okay, so let's start. So this is the Filipino flag, and of course, every color, just like any flag, every color, every symbol there has some kind of meaning, right? So the blue stands for patriotism, the red stands for bravery, the white triangle, the triangle stands for equality, the white stands for peace, and the three stars on the side, they stand for the three different island groups here in the Philippines. The sun stands for freedom, and the eight rays of the sun stand for the provinces that stood up during the revolution. And yes, I had to recall that from my elementary school days. Okay, so how well do you know the Philippines? Let's find out. All right. Okay, first question. Do you know where the Philippines is located? Is it in the South Pacific, in Southeast Asia, East Asia, or South Asia? Would
Put in
like
the
to guess?
chat. Put in the chat.
Okay,
Love it. Love it.
I love it. Okay, so yes, I see a lot of correct answers. The answer is Southeast Asia. You're correct. So together with countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, Singapore, Myanmar, Cambodia, and Laos, we make up the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. We are one ocean away from you, and there is Hawaii in between. Okay. Um, what questions do you have so far? Nothing yet? Okay, good. All right. So, as I've mentioned, the Philippines is an archipelago with over 7,600 islands, and it's roughly the size of which state? Who would like to guess?
Maybe California.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Okay, there we go. The chat. And I like that. I like the chat. Let's
Yep.
go. Symphony Montgomery. That's an interesting observation. It looks like the shape of California.
Okay. So actually, the it's roughly the size of New Mexico. I saw someone got it right. Alicia, Tanya, yeah. So it's roughly the size of New Mexico. And if you can see in this map, there are three island groups, Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. I am in Luzon right now, in the capital, Metro Manila. Okay. If you can see it. No, you can't see it.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, so I don't know if you can see that red spot in the middle. That's Manila. Okay. All right. Okay, next question. Think of New Mexico. Now, what is the population of the Philippines? Who'd like to guess? In the chat, okay, 2 million. Well, who else? Just to, you could just say 15 million, 85 million, to, okay, 15 million, interesting, interesting. Okay. All right. So the answer here is someone got it right, Gloria. It's 110 million. So imagine 110 million people in a place the size of New Mexico, and most of the population lives in cities. In fact, Metro Manila is one of the densest. It's one of the densest cities in the world. Okay, so if I look out my window right now, I would see houses and houses and houses. I live on the 36th floor of a high rise, and I would see, just a really packed city. Okay. So, next slide. Okay, next question. The Philippines is a colony of which country? This is actually a trick question. Who'd like to guess? The clue is in this structure. Okay, interesting. Interesting. Spain, France, Great Britain. Okay. Some people are half right. Okay. Who would like to? No, Spain and France? So the answers are Spain and the United States. Okay, so we were a colony. The Philippines was a colony of Spain for 300 years, for over 300 years, from 1521 up to 1898. Then in 1898, together with Cuba, Guam, and Puerto Rico, the Philippines was sold to the United States for $20 million US dollars, roughly. Okay, and back in the Spanish period, this served as the gate to what was known as the capital, the seat of government of the Philippines. This is called the Gate of Intramuros, or Fort Santiago, or within the walls. Okay, so this is a very old relatively old structure, because this was built around maybe the 1500s, and would, because of all the earthquakes here, it would collapse and be rebuilt, and collapse and be rebuilt over and over and over again. Okay, so yes, we were a colony of the United States. Okay, next slide. All right, next question. What is a staple of the Philippine diet?
Don't ask me, Naomi, because I'll.
Okay, I like Symphony's answer. Okay, so we have one big staple of the Philippine diet is, yes, a lot of people guessed it, it's rice. We have at least, oh my goodness, we have about 30 ways to prepare rice, including, and if you look at this photo, there are 3 dishes here. You wouldn't expect it, but they're made from rice. So it's the second row, second and third picture, and then the last row on the last picture on the right. Those are dishes that are made of rice. Okay. And as you can see, some of these are common Philippine dishes. So we have lechon up here, the roasted pig. We have the spaghetti. We have a Filipino spaghetti, and it's usually served very sweet, with hot dogs on it. And it's usually served. Yeah, it's weird. But some people like it. I personally don't, but some people like it. Okay. And yeah, we have a lot of seafood. We have a lot of fruit. Um, uh, and we're also a very meat heavy culture. So we all have things like barbecue, ham, etc., etc. Okay. Any questions? All right. Okay. So, does anyone know who she is and which Disney princess did she play? Moana, Mulan. Who else? Okay, I see Jasmine, Raya, Moana, Belle. Very different. Okay. All right. So even though Disney's latest cartoon, Raya and the Last Dragon, was based out of Southeast Asian cultures, this lady, Miss Leia Salonga, actually played two Disney princesses, Jasmine and Mulan. Okay, so the Philippines is sort of known to be a very musical culture. Okay, and um, we've imported, I would say, a lot of people in theater in Broadway and in the West End. We're known to be a singing culture. We're known to be very musical. The myth is that every Filipino can sing, but honestly, I would say that's not true because my immediate family and I, we can't carry a tune even if you um, even if you paid us $1 million. Okay, but yes, there are a lot of Filipino talent is known in the music world. Okay, so next slide. So true or false? The Philippines is in the Ring of Fire. This should be quite easy. True or false? The Philippines is in the Ring of Fire. Yes. Can anyone tell me what the Ring of Fire is? Can anyone tell me what the Ring of Fire is? So it's basically this area around the Pacific where most of the volcanoes of Earth, of the planet, are. Exactly. A ring around the Pacific Ocean, made up of volcanoes. Okay. So here in the Philippines, we do have a lot of volcanoes. It's one of our things. Um, and back in 2020, so aside from being within the volcano area, we also have a lot of earthquakes. We also have a lot of typhoons, okay, or big storms, our version of hurricanes. And in 2020 alone, this is what we experienced. So we had a volcano erupt in January of 2020, and it was a major eruption. I would say it's about maybe 60 or 70, sorry, maybe about 100 miles away from me. And I felt some ash fall. Okay, so that was one. We had one earthquake with a 6.6 in the Richter scale. We had three big typhoons, and I'll show you a photo of the floods later on. And we had a major war against terrorists also down south in Mindanao. If you recall the southernmost portion um, of the Philippine map. Okay, so yeah, 2020 wasn't a great year, but yeah, these added to the things that happened globally. Okay. Um, So if you look at this, if you look at the photo on the left, that is a photo of Mount Mayon. Really pretty. It's really pretty up close. Adrian and I have seen it up close. It's gorgeous, but it's also the most active volcano here in the Philippines. Okay, and if at any given day you would see
Ms.
smoke,
Aquino,
yes, yes,
Ms. Aquino, really
yes.
quickly, Jesseline, did you have a question?
Yeah, I had a question about like when the volcanoes erupt, is it like the movies where it's like really like like big and fast, or is
I
it?
will. Okay, so let me go to this photo in the lower right screen. You see that little car over there with a big smoke behind it?
Yes.
Okay, so that was the eruption of Mount Pinatubo. That was a really, really huge eruption back in 1991. And that one was really big. It was a dormant volcano for about 400 years. And then they felt some rumbling, so people were going out to test it. And then one day it just exploded. And it was the way it exploded, it caused so much damage. It even made the earth cooler about 1 degree because of all the ash that covered the atmosphere. And if you can see this, literally the car was running away. This is a Pulitzer Award winning piece. Okay, so literally the car was running away from or driving away from all that pyroclastic flow. And yeah, that was pretty major. But other than that, let's say Mount Mayon, the most recent eruption of Mount Mayon was it was pretty bad. It would cover about 9 kilometers, or sorry, about I don't know how big that is in miles, but it would cover about 9 kilometers of ground within its territory. Taal volcano, it would just shoot up like smoke in one go. So we would get some warnings, but it warnings would come up in about a day or so. But that's an interesting question, actually. And then if you go up to the photo on the upper right corner, so that's a flash flood, and that's also fairly common here in the Philippines. Think of, if you look at the map of the Philippines, we are right smack in the Pacific Ocean, and we kind of catch the storms for Asia. Okay, so we get huge storm surges, etc. And yeah, so that's what happens. 5.6 miles. Thank you, Symphony. Okay. All right. Any more? Does anyone have any other questions about volcanoes and earthquakes, things like that? None?
Do you guys
Okay.
have you experienced one personally?
Oh yeah, yeah. I've lived here. I've lived here pretty much all my life. Yes, I have experienced the most. So that the Mount Pinatubo eruption that I was telling you about. So, in the lower right-hand corner, I was still in elementary school when this happened. When I woke up, think the location of this is about. It's quite far from me. Think of a 3 or 4 hour trip by land, right? So when I woke up, I was covered in ash. My bed was covered in ash. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. But yeah, I've experienced floods, earthquakes, and it's fairly common for everyone to have that. And in fact, you could pull up a documentary on the Mount Pinatubo eruption on YouTube. It was quite an interesting. It's quite interesting. Okay.
Has anything happened in 2021 as of recently?
Has anything happened in 2021? Not yet, but we are on lockdown again. So,
Erica,
yes.
let's chat. That's a great question. Who asked that question?
Kai.
Okay, Miss Bradshaw, awesome, awesome. I think it's a good opportunity, Erica. So nothing in 2021. However, in 2020, I was actually scheduled to be in Philippines in February of last year. So even before the pandemic happened, I was supposed to be there. But Erica, tell them about what happened in the Philippines and why I couldn't
Oh,
go.
Yeah, so in January of 2020, as I've mentioned, there was a volcanic eruption again, of Taal volcano. So if you look at Taal volcano, it's really pretty actually. It's about an hour or two away from where I am. It's a volcano within a lake within a volcano. And one day we were having Sunday lunch with my family, and we just got our phones were blowing up because we had a warning. We got an alert from the city, from the government, saying that the volcano was active. If you're in the area, evacuate, etc., etc. There will be ashfall, so please bring out your masks, etc. So yeah, we were wearing masks even before we were required to wear masks because again of the ashfall.
So imagine this ash, which is, kilometers away from this city, and this thing erupts, and the ash that's so far away is covering cities all around it.
Mhm.
So I remember I couldn't go over there. They weren't letting me fly in. And there's that. The second part was the ash was getting into the reason they had to wear masks, because the ash was getting into people's, mouths and their bodies, and the ash is like swallowing glass shards.
Mhm.
So that's why people couldn't go out while this volcano was erupting. So not only was it, making the city full of ash and dark, but it was also creating health hazards because people were inhaling the ash and it was tearing their insides up.
So
Yeah,
also, yeah.
I know we don't experience that over here.
And for me that was the second time in my life I experienced that, right? So in addition to what Adrian said, I wear contacts and I couldn't wear them. I had to wear my glasses because again the ash had glass shards in them. Okay, so it's pretty bad. I would say. But yeah, it's sometimes I take it. I guess we take it for granted and we're so used to it, which is a little sad, I guess. But anyway, interesting topic. I will. Okay, any other questions before I go on to the next question?
Was there any restrictions because of that?
Sorry, was there any?
Any restrictions like houses and stuff like that?
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand. If you can put it in the chat.
It was hard to hear you, Gloria.
I was asking if there was any restrictions of houses and like anything that was broken and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, yeah. A lot of agriculture because that area is rich in agriculture and rich in farming. So a lot of that was pretty damaged. A lot of the houses because there was a typhoon that also came in around the same time. So with the ash and the rain coming together, just think of everything being caked in cement. That's what happened. So yeah, a lot of a lot of kids were also displaced. A lot of families were displaced. So yeah, how long did it take for the ash to clear up? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I think they're still cleaning it up because farmland in that area still can't grow. So yeah, it really depends on where it is, the proximity to the site.
What's your question?
With like the
Randolph,
glass
Miss
shards.
Randolph.
Yeah. With glass shards, like, did you have to wear different outfits so that you wouldn't get cut, or does it not like work on
It
your
doesn't
food?
really hurt you. So it doesn't really hurt you, right? But you'll feel it in your eyes. You'll feel it. You'll feel it. You'll just feel it. I can't describe it. You don't really have to wear clothing, any different, but you could be as protected as possible. Personally, I didn't. I would, because I live in a condo, so I would just go to my car, come down, and then and then I try not to be as outdoors as possible. But yeah, it was pretty bad. It's very uncomfortable, I would say.
And that and that's external, Miss Randolph. When you inhale it is when it does the damage. It won't do the damage out here. It's when it gets into your system that it does the damage.
Yes, and
So
if you
yeah, I
have
think
health
that's a good point. I think that's a good time for us to move on, Miss Aquino.
Yes, okay. All right. So now, how many official languages are there in the Philippines? Can anyone? Official languages. Okay, interesting. All right, the answer is 2, but there are 187 languages and dialects here in the Philippines. And if you can see in this map, these are the basic, these are the most widely spoken. So the dialect on which Filipino was based on is Tagalog, okay? But if you look at everything around here, I can go to the next province and they wouldn't be able to understand, or I wouldn't be able to understand them. And interestingly, we also have a Creole version of Spanish called Chavacano. If you go down to Mindanao, if you go way, way down, there is a place called Zamboanga where they speak a Creole version of Spanish. Okay. Okay, true or false? The Philippines is one of 18 mega biodiverse countries in the world, containing 2/3 of the Earth's diversity between 70 to 80% of the world's plant and animal species. True or false? Obviously, it is true. Yes, it is very true. Um, as Adrian said, it's very aesthetically pleasing over here. And if you look at that beach behind you, that's a photo that I took. I didn't take it from any stock photo or from the internet. That's my photo. And it's so easy to take photos like this when you're here. Okay. And if you look at these photos, all right, so in the upper left-hand corner is a human-sized bat. So this giant, yeah, I can see your faces cringing. So this is a fruit-eating bat, and its wingspan can grow as long as 6 feet. Okay. Yeah. So imagine like these huge trees and these huge bats, and then at around sunset they start flying around in the jungle, and you sometimes you don't know if you're frozen in fear or you can be paralyzed in fear or just be so amused by it. Okay. And yeah, that is a monitor lizard. Okay. Yes, I am terrified. That's a monitor lizard on the upper right hand corner. And then on the lower left corner, with the dude, can anyone guess what that is? That is what kind of animal that is, what it's related to.
Is it like a monkey? Or
Yes,
like a
it's a tarsier. Yes, it's a tarsier. It's the world's smallest primate. Okay, and that's my brother actually, and he's holding the tarsier on his hand. Okay, so that's not a photo off the internet. I try to be as authentic as possible. And then on the lower right-hand corner, that is a whale shark. Okay, which the Philippines is part of its migration, its yearly migration, and I've seen one up close. They're huge. They can grow really, really long. Yeah, 18 meters. Think of a bus. Yeah, that's the world's biggest fish. And it's not uncommon also to have butterflies as big as dinner plates, butterflies as big as your face around here. I don't know if you have that over there. um, I go diving, and if it's such a common thing to see turtles or tuna, or all these wonderful marine life around. And in fact, some scientists have they even try to they did a project here not far from here, where they discovered 100 new plants and 100 new animals, something like that. Okay, so it's really quite diverse, biologically diverse here. Okay. All right, moving on. True or false, the first public school teachers in the Philippines were American? False, 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 false. Okay, the answer is true. Okay, they were prior to the Americans coming. The education was mostly taught by the friars, the Spanish friars, and these were very expensive, and the Americans were responsible for bringing in public education to the masses here in the Philippines, and they came on a boat called the USS Thomas, and so they were called the Thomasites. Just an interesting tidbit for you. All right. Okay. One last thing, which is not a Filipino invention? Okay. All right. Actually, it's the karaoke machine. That one was invented by a Japanese, but the machine that we know today was patented by a Filipino. Okay, the rest were invented by Filipinos, including the video phone. It was a very rudimentary video phone, of course, but it served as the basis for what we know today. Our smartphones, the technology behind the video calling. But yeah, those were invented by Filipino scientists and inventors, except for the yo-yo, by the way. That was based on a jungle weapon of the tribes. Okay. All right. So who wants to try and speak Filipino? I think everyone does. All right. Okay. So what you'll hear once you visit the Philippines is mabuhay. Okay, which literally means long live, but we hardly ever use it when we speak to everyone here. It's when a Filipino welcomes a foreigner to the Philippines, we say mabuhay. Mabuhay, welcome to the Philippines. Okay, can you say it? Mabuhay. Would like to say it.
Mabuhay.
Mabuhay. Okay, mabuhay. Very good. All right. But what we usually say when we see somebody that we know is kumusta. Okay, can you say that? Kumusta.
Kumusta?
Kumusta?
And then if we want to be respectful, we say kumusta po. Can you say that?
Kumusta po?
Kumusta po. Yes, it means how are you? And what does it sound like?
¿Cómo estás?
Yes, that's correct. That's correct, Tiffany. Yes, it was based on ¿Cómo estás? And we do have some words from the Spanish language. So anything with Filipino vocabulary, anything that's sort of abstract, like heaven, earth, or the sky, that was based off Sanskrit or Malay. But anything palpable, anything secular is based off Spanish. So mesa, cuchara, libro, that's the same in our language, okay? But informally, we say to friends while we're eating, especially when we see somebody that we know, typically we'll say, hey, kain tayo, which means let's eat. Can you say that?
Kain tayo.
Kain tayo.
Kain tayo. Yes. All right. I think that one was Adrian's favorite phrase. Let's eat. Kain tayo. Okay. Any questions so far?
Hey, y'all,
Yeah.
y'all saw all that food on the one slide. You can imagine my favorite phrase is kain tayo. Let's eat now.
Okay. All right. So next slide. And then when you say thank you, it's salamat. And to be formal, it's salamat po. So can you repeat that?
Salamat po.
Salamat po.
Salamat po. Thank you. And when you say thank you very much, it's maraming salamat.
Maraming salamat.
Very good. All right. You guys are great. And then when you say you're welcome, it's walang anuman.
Walang anuman.
Yes. All right. So this one literally means it's nothing. It's fine. It's nothing. And if you think of the Spanish phrase de nada, it came from there. Okay. So walang anuman. And then when we say good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, it's magandang umaga for good morning, magandang hapon for good afternoon, magandang gabi for good evening. Okay. Can you repeat that? Magandang
hapon.
Yes.
Magandang gabi.
Very good. All right. So again, magandang umaga is good morning. So can we say good morning because it's morning in my time? Magandang umaga.
Magandang umaga.
Very good. And then good afternoon, magandang hapon.
Magandang hapon.
Very good. And for later on, magandang gabi.
Magandang gabi.
All right. Very good. And when you want to introduce yourself, you say, ako ay si Erica. So can you say that?
Ako ay si Gloria.
Ako
Very
ay
good.
si Amber.
Very good, Amber.
Ako ay si.
Okay.
si
Ako ay si, and then your name.
Kai. Ako
Very
ay
good.
si Kai.
Ako ay si Kai. All right. Salamat. Maraming salamat. Okay. All right. Next slide. And then greetings. Oo is yes. So if you notice, there's a lot of syllables in the Philippine language. So oo is yes. And if you want to be formal, if you want to be respectful, you say opo. Okay. Can you repeat?
Opo.
Oo, opo.
Opo.
Okay. Very good. And then if you want to say no, it's hindi or hindi po.
Hindi.
Hindi po.
Okay, so hindi po is for what? If you want to be respectful. Okay. To say goodbye is paalam. Can you repeat that?
Paalam.
Paalam. And then to say till next time, sa uulitin. It's a little long.
Sa uulit.
So uulitin.
Okay, sa uulitin. All right. So does anyone have any questions for me so far? Nothing? Anything about volcanoes or food or anything?
So all the pictures that we saw, those are the ones that you took, like especially the bat.
Okay, no, the bat is not mine. I wish I couldn't find my old bat pictures. They were taken many years ago, but you'd think they were leaves hanging from big trees, but no, they are actually bats. And then at sunset, they would just fly out in their little flight patterns. But yes, this is a real one, and yes, they are as big as that. Okay.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's insane.
So you saw one as big as that one?
Oh yeah. Several. No, they were in the hundreds. in the
Oh.
place where I see them. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I can see your faces. Sorry, that's and then so the whale shark, it's a fish. Think of a fish that's as big as a bus. But it's such a gentle giant. You know, it only eats plankton. And they're very conscious of how they treat the whale sharks here because they're such a huge tourist attraction. So if you're not allowed to wear sunscreen when diving in with them because the oils from the sunscreen can harm their skin. You're not allowed to touch them. You're not allowed to do a lot of things, and especially you can't swim by the tail because why? Because if it hits you, it can hit you with a huge force. Okay. Um, so there are a lot of things about the Philippines. And I really hope you visit one day because it's really fun. It's fun here, and it's such a great country. Um, and yeah, with that, I would say maraming salamat po and sa uulitin. Okay, if you have any other questions, unless you have other questions and stuff,
I have a question.
sure.
Do you guys have any like encounters with snakes? Like a problem with any
Oh yeah.
snakes down here?
Okay. Yes. Not so much in the city, but for instance, in the suburbs, in my childhood home, they once found a snake by our water tank. So yeah, it's such a it's a common thing. Any other questions?
Are the
Have
snakes
you-
like, oh, are they like human sized?
Yeah, there's some that are human sized, there's some that are small, there's some that are, yeah. Okay, just I may have scared you just a little with all the earthquakes and the big monster bats. Okay, just it's a beautiful country. Okay, and it's not something very common that I see, especially here in the city. You really don't see much. But of course, if you go to the jungles, if you go to nature walks or whatever, yes, of course, there's a possibility that you will see snakes and you will see bats and you will see strange insects. But it's part of it. It's part of being in the tropics.
Absolutely. And if you think about it this way, y'all, I mean, I've been to a lot of places, and, the Philippines is probably one of my favorite. When you look at it in these terms, this is a group of islands in the middle of the ocean, right?
Mhm.
You can only imagine, what kind of animals are going to be there that just literally can't survive anywhere else in the world, right? So, that's what, when you go to, I remember one of the first times when I went to the Philippines, I did some like excursions. I actually went swimming with the whale sharks. And let me tell you, that was intense. I got in the water, I put my head under the water, and like Erica said, these whale sharks are the size of school buses, right? So I put my head in the water, I see one coming at me in this direction, another one coming at me in this direction, and one coming at me straight on, right? I'm like, all right, well, at least I didn't get hit by a car on the corner of my neighborhood, right? There we go. My mom have a great story to tell her friends. My son lived his life, and like in the Bible, what they say, the guy got swallowed by a whale, right? So something like that. So, at least I'll give her a good story. But anyways, when I saw that, I realized how beautiful these massive things were, and they just went right past me like if I didn't even exist. So, that was incredible. But on top of that, on that same, I had to get to water to go see the whale sharks, but I had to go through jungle. And on the whole path to go see the whale sharks, I also saw a mass, I would say, probably at least like 5 feet, a 5 foot long monitor lizard. The other picture that she had up, and it looked at me, and I was like, man, this thing is gonna either chase me, bite me, or something. And it just went the other way, but this thing was huge. So it was just me getting comfortable with seeing new things, right? Like the people who live in the Philippines, they're used to it, right? They probably see, you know, our our food portion sizes and are like, how do Americans eat so much, right? And then we're like, man, how do those animals over there get so big? So it's all about it's all about perspective. And I just remember, and to my point earlier, and to what Ms. Aquino was talking about, if you saw the colonization, with Spain, you there's I'm Puerto Rican, so my family's from Puerto Rico. We were also a colony of Spain, and we're also a territory right now of the United States of America. So I didn't want to spoil it in my intro, but that's why I saw so many familiarities going from a China, Japan, and then making my way down to the Philippines and seeing Catholicism. I don't think Ms. Aquino touched on it, but you'll also notice a lot of the last names, a lot of Filipino last names are very Spanish. Rodriguez, De La Garza, Aquino, right? These are all names I'm sure you've heard, especially in Florida. These are all similar names that I'm sure you've heard in the past. And, the reason I picked these countries to be a part of this is because I want us to see how culture and how life is really full circle, how our culture bleeds into another culture that bleeds into another culture that ultimately allows us to all be able to just learn from one another. So, that's the point of this. We learn, there's so many portions of China. China shares a sea with the Philippines. Right. Mm-hmm. So there's so many connections within China, Philippines connection to the USA. You see what I'm saying here? So yeah. All these cultures are just a beautiful juxtaposition of one another.
I'd also like to add, speaking of China, we actually have the world's oldest Chinatown. The Chinese were trading with the Spanish as far back as far back, and they were here. I think the earliest Chinatown was established in the year 1450, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, and it still exists to this day. At the same time, Adrian, you were mentioning about the whale sharks. I personally jumped in my own whale shark experience. I jumped in the water, and its mouth was open, and I thought it was going to swallow me, but no. Okay. Like literally its mouth was underneath me, and but yeah, it's such an interesting culture, we have such similarities. Another thing, our food, by the way, a lot of it came from Mexico, in the sense that a lot of our ingredients, cacao, peanuts, they were actually from Mexico, because they're not endemic to the Philippines. Awesome. Okay. Yeah.
All right, y'all. Well, we're gonna keep learning. We're gonna keep learning. Our next program, I'm excited. I'm super excited. You're gonna meet some pretty cool people. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna give you a little heads up. So what we're gonna do for the next one is we're gonna switch it up a little bit. We're doing a global innovation student panel. So I'm gonna be bringing some people that we know. You're gonna be talking to Erica. Do y'all remember Tree from China? She's going to be coming back. Mamoru from Japan. We have a couple of friends from Africa and Puerto Rico, and they're going to talk to you about their collegiate journeys abroad and how their school journeys and their work journeys abroad differentiated them and how it's different from America. So that's going to be really fun. I'm super excited about it. So definitely come with your questions. Come to learn, about workforce development and educational journeys with people from abroad who you've already gotten to know. And you're actually going to be meeting two people that you haven't met yet that are going to represent South Africa, Southern Africa, and the Caribbean. So that's going to be, I'm excited for you to meet them, and then they're going to go through their countries. So if you can, really quickly, so we can always have beautiful documentation. If you could turn on your camera, I would like to take a quick group picture. That would be phenomenal. Actually, Mr. Cabrera signing on right now, so we can get him in the picture. And then what I'll do is I will send the the PowerPoint over to Ms. Carey and Mr. Cabrera, and they could put it into your online classroom, and you can have access to it and go over the Filipino phrases and the facts. Sounds good?
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
Awesome. I'm going to take a picture right now. Hey, Mr. Cabrera, welcome. So 1, 2, get ready. Turn on those cameras. We got a lot of wonderful faces. 1, 2, 3. One more time, y'all. One more time, y'all. Let's go. 1. Actually, hold on. Cool. Let's get it. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Mr.
Good
Cabrera,
job.
thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cabrera. We just wrapped up.
Awesome.
Thank you, Ms. Carey. Go ahead, Mr. Cabrera. You can close us out.
No, again, my apologies. I was hopping over from another student leadership conference that I was presenting at. Again, just sharing all the great work that we do in Upward Bound, but in general, just fostering success in other people was the message. So, students, I hope you're enjoying this experience and growing from it and appreciating that there's a lot out there in the world and that diversity is a beautiful thing. And the more we get to know one another and what life is all about, the more successful we're going to be as individuals. So enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Thank you for being here. Look forward to catching up soon. You all be safe. Take care, everybody.
See y'all soon. I'm excited to see y'all soon with the panel.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you,
It's
Miss
good seeing you,
Erica.
Ms. Carey.
Mr. Cabrera,
Yes,
do we have to go back to the teams?
we are good to go. You are enjoy the rest of your weekend and look forward to catching up soon. All right.
Okay, have a nice day.
All right. Be well.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Care.
Thank you, Terrence.
Sorry I missed it. The conference time slot was right at 12, and so I ended up over there. But seems like
no
it was
worries.
another good session.
Have a nice day. Thank you.
How'd it go?
It was awesome. Again, like this is a student leadership conference put on by a lot of the student leader groups out of the state of North Carolina.
Mhm.
So it was a predominantly Latino crowd, and so just to be that example, that face for them to connect to, I think just